What's good? What's good, chosen people? Thanks for being here. Just turning on my light real quick. Bang, bang, there we go. Ooh, it's a lot of light. Okay, it's a little bit bright. Let me put it over there. What's up, yo? Um, chosen, thank you for being here. Thanks for checking us out. And I want to take a pause and give a few seconds of gratitude for this opportunity to be here and to talk with you. To have our faculties and our consciousness, and for these technologies that allow us to share our ideas and share our perspective in a way that was never before possible, in a way that was simply not possible for people generations ago, even one generation ago. So, what an interesting moment for us to be in, you know what I'm saying? And as I was thinking about what to talk about today, I was able to reflect a little bit and notice how weird it is that I come on here and I talk about concepts of spirituality and God and metaphysics so often. That was not the plan. That was not the original plan of this YouTube channel at all. Um, Certainly not when I first made the YouTube channel over a decade ago. And even when I started to really get into it and post with some regularity, maybe about 5 years ago, or yeah, it was not, I did not think this would be the base of the content, but it is that. It is such because this is what we've arrived at. It's from a mind, and it gave me an opportunity to remind myself and notice, like, what am I doing here? What is of interest to me? Why did we arrive here? Really, um, man, I wanted to talk about journalism. I wanted to talk about the value and importance of journalism, the value and importance of structures and people in a society who are committed to truth tellers, what it means to have um, truth tellers, and how do we discern between truth tellers and other people who are speaking to us and who have the airwaves and are on a different, uh, creating news media, not just the corporate stuff, but we're in a social media age where everybody gets on Twitter and everybody has an opinion, everybody has a voice, everybody's perspective can be reached, can reach thousands of people. How do you know what is true in this climate? We know it's difficult. Then you've got AI on top of that, which adds another element of goofiness to it. But just let's just talk about humans for a second. How do we know and discern reality? That became a very important question to me as I left my old employer at CNN, and I realized that I needed to challenge journalism altogether. I needed to challenge them, not just the individuals and the institutions, but down to the very concepts, ideas like objective journalism. I spent years talking about and challenging and showing that there's no such thing. It is a marketing ploy. It is a concept created so that media organizations can sort of pretend that they have a kind of scientific approach to what they're doing, right? But that at the end of the day, they create content with words and with video, and that there will be human choices all throughout that are the reflection of those humans and their choices and the institutions themselves. And so you end up with what we have, right? When they lean into that, when these different companies, these different private organizations have their different partnerships and their different business models, and the different demographics that they're seeking, they will produce different content. You use different language. They would tell an entirely different story, even conflicting stories, while talking about the same phenomena in the real world, right? So that's some powerful stuff. And I think what happens is a lot of us, we just accept that. We either don't know that on some level, or we see these different news stations and we just kind of, oh yeah, this is owned by that, and we can see the connections, and then we just kind of choose our favorite. Let's say we choose, whoever the anchor is most handsome or the most interesting, or who says the things that you prefer the most often, and we say, well, that's it. That's we just accept that when I really do know that there's a deeper truth that we can attain, and there's a deeper kind of analysis that we can have to create that kind of proper discernment, um, to understand reality. And so that's why we talked about authenticity so much for several episodes, and we talked about lots of stuff trying to pinpoint this question of reality. And as I kept digging deeper, it pulled me into the spiritual. It pulled me into a spiritual conversation. Um, and I had to embrace that. Even if I wanted to reject it and I wanted to focus and talk about institutions and let's talk about corporate stuff and talk about advertising and talk about government, I was like, oh, there's a spiritual component to this, and it's powerful. It's powerful because it's present. It's powerful because it is. It's powerful because it points to reality. So when we talk about words, we're not just, when we're hearing words, people might be watching this video or any of the videos you watch from the news stations. You hear these words, there are deeper constructs happening behind the choices of those words. And the stories that these different places are telling. And if we accept those stories, what we accept those stories, we accept the premises, and they shape our understanding of reality. And this is even more important now. Like, it was important always, but it's even more important now at a time when cable news is bottoming out. No one's watching that stuff. People have lost their respect and trust in those institutions, and they've taken it up themselves. The journalist is all of us. We are all journalists. We are all like participating in this very complex storytelling mechanism. Okay, we're not just the recipients of it. We're also the participants and the creators of journalistic content. And some of us do it with great intention. And and I think to do it well, I think to really do it well, you have to start with an understanding of who you are, not just your biases and your lens and your biases, but like who you are. The world that you experience flows through you, and the stories you tell are a reflection of you. The words that you use are a reflection of you. Um, so in the last episode, when we talked about perfection, I want to recap what that conversation was when we talked about perfection. We said that there's a thing called perfectionism, which kind of holds people back sometimes. And we said that perfectionism is a concept. It's a challenge of the mind. We said that we're in a mental game that we're playing, and perfectionism is a concept of the mind where you're holding out some sort of concept of perfect that can prevent people from taking the steps necessary to act, that can prevent them from being present, prevent them from enjoying who they are and what they are, prevent them from creating confidently, because they're holding out for perfection. And they assume that they aren't perfect, that they can't create perfectly. And so this can be a roadblock. It can be a major stumbling block, an obstacle. And we said that there's two ways to approach this problem. Some people approach the problem by bringing the weight of it all down. Like whatever they're doing, they say, all right, well, it's not perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. We'll move on imperfectly. And that's powerful. And that's a powerful way to approach that problem and to overcome it. But there's another way, there's an alternate way to approach the problem where you claim perfection. You claim it. You say, yo, I'm perfect. This is perfect. This moment is perfect. Even if it's not perfect the moment is perfect. This is a perfect opportunity then to do the thing and to do it as perfectly as I can perceive it, as perfectly as possible, and to claim it as perfect, so that you can own that. And see, the power with that is you realize that like how much power you actually have. that you get to define the words. You are the operant power. You realize that perfect is a concept. It's a concept of the mind. It doesn't exist in nature. The birds and the bees and the animals and the trees do their thing in nature. The water goes, you know, uh, through all the different waterways and then evaporates, and the whole rain cycle, and all these things happen in reality in nature. And it doesn't concern itself with perfect. It just does what it does. The bees don't compare each other's stripes and colors and say that this is perfect or better. They don't even compare things like efficiencies. I imagine, I don't know for sure, but I imagine there's no like, oh, you only, produce this much honey, man. Like that shit ain't perfect. You got to be more like me. This hierarchy shit is entirely, it is a construct of the human mind. And when you get that, when you really understand that, you realize that it's all one thing. The anxieties that we have, so many of the anxieties we have are due to this attachment to a notion of perfection that is fake. Is an attachment to these symbols and these assumptions. And they show up in everywhere. They show up in race and colorism. They show up in gender assumptions about which is better. They show up in nationalism. They show up in everything that, in our political spheres, that these little tensions occur because of attachments to perfection and these hierarchical sort of notions of like who we are and what is valuable and what is, saying how we should be. And the powerful thing about being able to claim yourself and claim the moment as perfect is that you actually learn. You actually, when you do it and you do it with, and you start to become proficient at this, you learn that you have this incredible creative power. You have this incredible creative power to name the moment and to frame the moment. And when you do so, you realize how so many of the things that you learned about reality, about yourself, they intentionally or not, whether you learn them from people who fucking don't care about you or from people who do care about you but didn't know exactly, like you learn that, what I'm saying, like you can set these terms in such a way that actually favor you. You can actually set these terms in ways that set you up for your best results. And you can do that because that's the gift that you have. That's the power of words, actually. You stop ceding your power to other people. You stop reading or watching CNN and reading the New York Times with an assumption of like, okay, they're telling you what is. You start to realize that you have to that you have that power. And we that's why we talk about the stuff that we talk about. It is to kind of orient us correctly about this experience. Um, to let go of the anxieties and the definitions. When you let go of the anxieties and definitions, you sit, take some time away from all the stories, and come to realize how words play on our mind. and how we are experiencing words and stories more often than we're experiencing the real thing. We talked about this. You meet someone, you experience the categories that you have for them. You know what I mean? You meet a black woman, you're experiencing those categories, black woman, and all of the assumptions you have about that queer woman, whatever it is. And if you experience those things, those of us who are really interested in truth, we find the ability um, to shed those stories, the stories that are heaped upon us, the stories that are burdening us, that people perceive us through those stories. You shed them and become yourself. You also stop projecting onto other people, or at least you have a moment of pause. You have an ability to reflect and to, once you've projected something, you can say, oh, actually that there's more. You become curious. You see how that works? You become curious instead of just assuming and feeling comfortable and confident in your assumptions. You understand that you are primarily dealing with words and stories and narrative, and you become curious about truth. You want to know the person. You want to ask meaningful questions. You want to be vulnerable to encourage a meaningful exchange so that you can actually know the person and to know the phenomena that's sitting in front of you with an openness, not a closedness, not a closed mind, but an openness. An awareness that whatever you know is just short of what is. You don't know everything, you know? And this is an entirely different mindset than the one that we are fed every day when very confident people in suits get on television, and confident people in suits with official documents interviewing, you know what I'm saying, official contacts and people close to things and this and that, and they give you hard, factual, you know, statements about the reality of what, and they use all these words and they're carving up the world with their words, and you receive that as though it's true. No, it's all those words are splitting reality. The every second actually is a battle to properly ascertain what is and to give accurate language to what is. And I contend that that's what journalism is supposed to be doing. But again, they're not doing that. It's private industry trying to get you to click on things and to watch stuff, and they're selling you, they're saying buzzwords to capture audiences. I mean, it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. But but you are one. You are one with God. You are one with consciousness, the root primordial energy that was present at the very beginning of all things is inside of you. And this experience is a really brilliant experience of life where we have you know, a window of experience that we can enjoy. Um, and when you understand the power of words, you understand your identity as one with all things, including God. You understand the power of words. You understand your ability to claim perfection and to name the moment in your favor. When you understand that, you're unstoppable. You are filled up with an infinite well of gratitude and a kind of awareness that keeps reminding you that whatever your conditions are in this moment, that it's not over, and that there's a broader context, and that whatever you do in this moment, it matters. It all matters. You matter very much. You don't not matter. You matter. And You're the operant power in you're the whole thing, and you can love yourself because you're perfect. Yeah, I think that's the message, yo. Thanks again for being on this video with me. Thanks for checking it out. Check out the rest of my YouTube. Check out some of my new music I just dropped, One True King, on this YouTube channel and wherever you stream. Check out billybutton.com for some of my writings. And I see the God in you, and I wish you the absolute best. Talk to you tomorrow. Peace.